We are on section 3 of our training, of our coaching training. If you remember the first week, we talked about the different types of interpersonal development and what coaching is and what coaching isn't. Last week, we talked about the coaching ethics. We also talked about rapport last week and how we need to connect with people. So today in section 3, we're talking about the mind, conscious versus subconscious. And this is pretty interesting. When you think about how people think and how people accomplish things, the mind really truly is the place to start. You know, imagine if you had a brand new Lamborghini, nice sports car, brand new, and it started not running right, started not operating the way it's supposed to, running rough or something, smoking or whatever. You probably wouldn't take that car to a body shop and have it repainted. You probably wouldn't just buy some cool stickers and put on the outside. You'd probably take it to somebody that knows about the inside of the motor, that knows how it works, because it's that important. You know, with coaching, it's kind of the same way. Businesses all over the place will have people that are really important to them, kind of like their sports car. And sometimes in the leadership world, we don't know what's going on under the hood well enough to fix it. And so we'll do some body work instead. We'll try to fix the symptoms rather than the cause of the problem. And so today is about the mind and the conscious versus subconscious. And hopefully we can get a better idea of how the brain or the mind works, and have a better idea of how to approach people and how to relate to people and help them going forward. So first of all, this model that I'm going to share with you today was from a guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet. So Dr. Fleet called his work concept therapy. Concept means fixed ideas in the subconscious mind, and therapy means having healing qualities. Ultimately, Fleet's teaching focus on the healing of the negative and limiting concepts in the subconscious mind. And happiness, health, and success and peace can be the result. So this is the guy that invented this model. It's also been repeated in the John Maxwell team coaching training, and so I'm going to be giving you guys an idea of what that is. So your mind is the epicenter of your very being. It's the whole thing. Your mind decides what to believe. Your circumstances are a factor, but not in control unless you allow them to be. I'm sure you all know this. You've seen people that are completely vulnerable to the circumstances. You think of little children. Little children will panic and they will go berserk because something isn't going their way. Their circumstance isn't something that they find favorable, and so their mind creates panic. And you'll see other people that can stay calm in the midst of circumstances, or the circumstances don't necessarily have to determine how they think. And so that's really the main thought of this whole presentation, is that your mind decides what to believe, and that your circumstances are just a secondary factor, and your primary factor is your own choice. So that's important to remember and to know. What you believe always determines what you do. And I know some people might look at that and think, wait, that's not true. But it is true. What you believe always determines what you do, apart from somebody putting a gun to your head or hog-tying you and taking you somewhere, completely subduing you. All of your actions that you do is determined by what you believe. There's a quote from years ago, and I don't remember who said it, but basically the quote is, you don't always do what you say, but you will always do what you believe. And I believe that that's true. Sometimes what we believe and what we say are not the same thing. Sometimes you will say what you want to be true, but you don't believe that necessarily. That's why we make promises that we don't keep. That's why we will continually let people down, because we tell them one thing, but we actually believe something else. And so it's because we always do what we believe. Our body cannot do anything without permission from the mind. So the main part on this screen that's important is just to know that the mind is the epicenter, and it is in control of everything else that happens in your world, in your body, in your behaviors. It's not your circumstances. Your circumstances just play a factor in that. So I want to look at inputs. Okay, so our mind it's like a sponge. We can take in information from all different sorts. We have 5 senses that we can take in information. We can hear things, we can see things, we can feel things. Taste and smell is part of it too. So the major inputs in our lives that control our mind, or that feed the mind with information anyway, are listed on this slide here. So our upbringing or cultural influences has a great deal to say about how your mind works. Your family and the things that you grew up, the values in your home or the lack of values in your home. Those all play a part. The media or people's opinions makes a big difference. There's a lot of different ideas out there on how the world should work or how the world does work, and they're not all right. They can't be all true. And there's a lot of opinions on a lot of things, whether it be politics or just parenting, and or religion or philosophy. There's so many different ideas out there and so many different opinions about worldviews. They can't all be right, and the mind absorbs whatever it comes in contact with, and that makes up the content of your mind. Lies that we choose to believe. We all choose to believe lies at times. Sometimes we believe a lie simply because we would like for that lie to be true. Other times we believe those lies just because it's been pressed into our mind by other people. Or sometimes we believe lies because of the repetition of media, or just your culture, your surroundings, whatever it is, and we'll believe a lot of lies, and that goes into creating your mind as well. Your worldview or religion or your education, that plays a big part in what you value and how your mind thinks and what it holds to be valuable. The pain that you've experienced plays a part. It's one of the inputs on your mind. And then also the success that you've experienced, that also plays a big part in how your mind works. All right, so those are the inputs. Those are some of the major ways that information gets into your mind. By default, we are programmed to allow our consciousness to be controlled and manipulated by news and events outside of ourselves. Now, you may hear that and you may think, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. We're not just programmed to allow our consciousness to be controlled and manipulated. But the truth is we are. We were created in such a way that the first thing we hear, we tend to believe until something else comes along to challenge that thought. That's the way our brain works. We don't just hold off and just not learn anything until a later time. We learn as it comes along. When new information comes along, we absorb it. And sometimes that new information is not correct, or it's not in line with truth. Our consciousness is controlled and manipulated by news and events. Sometimes we'll watch TV and we don't think that TV, the information on the TV, whether you're watching the news or whatever you're watching, you don't think that's going to have any effect on you, but it does. Your ears hear it, and the more times your ears hear whatever it is you're subjected to, the more it's going to believe that. And it's the same way with our music. When I was a teenager, I had a serious addiction with listening to music, rock and roll music. And rock music, just the message of music penetrated my brain, and it controlled my worldview. My worldview became that of rock stars that are singing. When I went to determine how I should behave with the opposite sex, I was trained by the music I would listen to. When I was when I would go to consider how I would handle my responsibilities at work or in my family or in my relationships, the message I got from rock music formed my worldview, and it was pretty bad, honestly. There's a lot of bad stuff, bad ideas that come out of the music industry and the movie industry as well. But so back then, I was being completely led by the nose by my culture. My culture taught me how relationships should work. My culture taught me how to handle responsibility, and it just led me down the wrong way because I allowed all of that to teach me what I should be, if that makes sense. I'm sure some of you have had, very similar experiences in other ways. So it is really important to understand that our minds really are like sponges, and we will absorb what is around us if we are not capable, or if we do not create some kind of a skill or a gate to help keep some of that stuff out. So, all right.